All right, hello and welcome to the American Soccer Crash Course. Very joyous occasion here. Nations League champs. I'm here with Max. Max, our first solo episode, I believe, you and me.
Really?
I think it might be.
Is this a Crash Course Agami?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, finally we got one. So I'm excited to recap the games. We got to watch the Mexico game together, and then we were, all texting about this Canada Nations League final. So, yeah. U.S. wins the Nations League, Kings of CONCACAF. So, huge deal. Lots of reasons for people to get mad these days about the U.S. men's national team. This is not one. Really fantastic job by them. So we're gonna break it down. Some sad boy announcements right now. It's Tuesday as we record. We're gonna go to the game Saturday at Soldier Field, U.S. versus Jamaica. We're throwing our B team out there. Jamaica's actually gonna have a strong team, but the tailgate's in danger. That's all I'll say.
We just, we're great at planning podcasts, but not so much tailgates.
Yeah.
I don't think we put the forethought in. We don't have a car, which is kind of key
Same
for
issues last time.
We're also really unsure of the amount of people because we haven't really asked anyone yet.
Yeah,
either.
that's true.
So a couple of problems.
The car thing, really.
It'll work out. Regardless, we're going to be there. We're going to be cheering on the US of A B team, but nonetheless, we'll be there.
No matter, even if Aaron Long's on the field, we'll cheer him on.
Well, that's going to be a tough one. Although, that does bring me back to the first episode ever.
Yeah.
It was a very long. So
really.
shout out him for that. But it might be a tough scene, but we'll see.
Yeah. So anyways, we'll be there no matter what in terms of the game. And a reminder, we got no lodge reminder today, but please like and subscribe if you can. Allows us to get the pod out to more people. Something we really enjoy doing. So I want to get right into the Canada game. Did a little YouTube recap myself on the Mexico game, which was just the most dominant U.S. men's national team performance in recent memory, that 3-0 win. Tres Acero versus Mexico. Breaking down the Canada game. So our lineup was they had their kind of normal thing going. I'm not going to pretend to know every single one of their players, but they had the key guys. So they had Jonathan David playing striker, the really good Canadian striker who plays in France. Funny enough, was born in Brooklyn, which is a bit of a miss, but we got our own Brooklyn-born Balogun. We're gonna get to him, but they also had their star man Alphonso Davies, who kind of was playing several different positions, trying to kind of get things going for Canada. And they had their second good striker, Kyle Larin, who plays in Spain. Got relegated, but plays in Spain. So on our side, it was looking like Turner and Jedi and Chris Richards at the back, and then things got a little switched up. We had Walker Zimmerman actually in for Miles Robinson after Miles Robinson had some sort of knock or injury. You had Joe Scally in for the suspended Serginho Dest, which everyone really expected. Yunus Musa was played as a sole central defensive midfielder at the 6, and then they actually did two center mids, 2 8s of Brendan Aronson and Gio Reyna. So a lot of people were expecting Luca De La Torre to fill in, but they went with Aronson instead, and it really gave him the instruction to just hound Alphonso Davies and the rest of the Canadian players. That's really his skill set. Just go annoy people with his crazy pressing. So beyond that, the front line was looking like Pulisic, Balogun, and Tim Weah, which I think is something you're going to see over and over and over for the next few years. So. Early on in the game, I think in the 12th minute or so, we won a set piece. Gio Reyna came in and put a really nice corner in, and Chris Richards came in, headed home. Kind of your classic center back. I don't know what to do with my hands celebration. Just resorted to screaming and showing the crest. But he was pretty emotional. A guy who ultimately did not make the World Cup squad just because of injury. So that was clearly a big moment for him. That set the tone. 1-0 against a team that doesn't have that was going to struggle to play through us was a great place to be. And in the 30th minute, really nice bit of interplay. Tim Weah heads it to Gio. Gio spots the run of Balogun, who just points out where he wants the ball, takes a couple steps, gets in front of the defender, smashes it home. Too easy, 2-0. From there, Gio Reyna came off at half, and I think the game opened up a little bit when that happened. Luca De La Torre came on, and he was not nearly as good. But the U.S. managed the game from there. They had another couple good chances. Chris Richards had a header off the bar, and Balogun almost scored a third that got cleared off the line by a Canadian that didn't even know much about it, just really smacked into him. And then Canada had a couple really good chances. Jedi Robinson in particular was really good defensively in some of the scrambles. We were actually down at Kirkwood watching the game with a group, and my girlfriend's younger sister turned around and watched the game for a couple minutes. She's like, "We're playing lots of defense, but it's good defense." I was like, that's very true. That's a really good assessment.
Spot on.
Of what was happening. So, we managed the game the whole way, 2-0, no problem. Won the game in a bit of a different way than the Mexico game, but it was great, and we dominated our two local rivals, and you can fully say we're the kings of CONCACAF, Max.
Yeah, I mean, what a phenomenal performance all around. I mean, when you go up and down the lineup, it's hard to find a player that you're not satisfied with the performance of, right? I think we were sturdy in the back the whole game, and we were able to create a lot of chances up front. The thing that stands out, I think, watching the game, it didn't feel like we only had 36% possession, right?
Oh, yeah?
I mean, maybe parts of the game it did.
Yeah,
but
wow, that's a low number.
I guess in this, I think I don't know if that's the final, but it was something like that, I think.
Wow.
But we didn't feel uncomfortable.
Yep.
In the whole game, really, right? We had only maybe a third of the possession, but it felt like we were the aggressors. It felt like we were on the front foot. So I think it was great to see us kind of commit to a style, and we looked comfortable even in not having possession. And I think that's suitable to what to how our team should play. So it was a great performance all around. Yeah,
it makes me think of 18 months ago we went to Canada and they beat the brakes off of us, but we had something like 64% possession, and Gregg Berhalter came out after the game and said, "Yeah, we dominated them, and we lost 2-0."
Yeah.
So I wonder what he'd have to say about this one.
Yeah, we'll get to that, I'm sure.
But it was really a great performance from the U.S. Just honestly so satisfying to see us play back-to-back dominant games. Not something you see all the time. So, this is going to be a bit of an unscripted podcast, Max. There's so many takeaways. We can't even play games stock up, stock down because everyone's stock is up.
Everyone's stock is up.
Yeah.
Except maybe Greg, but
everyone played so damn well. So we're just going to get right into the takeaways, bouncing back and forth on each other. So, Max, what's your biggest takeaway from the last two games?
There's a lot. I think what I'm going to start with is the big headline, and I guess sort of the big headline coming in, which is Balogun.
Yeah.
I was super impressed with how he played. Maybe a little slower in the Mexico game, right? He was still settling in, but I think you really saw in the Canada game the kind of quality he brings to our side. And I think as a casual fan, you might watch the game. Obviously, he had the goal, which was a great goal.
Yeah.
But I think you might watch a lot of the game, and Balogun might disappear a little bit. He doesn't stand out for all the game like someone like Pulisic might or Gio Reyna might. But what stood out to me, I think, more than anything, is kind of just tactical awareness and tactical ability.
Yeah.
Particularly his ability to make great runs and to get into good positions. Obviously, the goal is a good example, but I think there were a lot of situations where he would make those runs into the box, draw defenders in, and I think that was a big part of the reason why it looked like we were able to create more space and chances in the final third than we have before.
Yeah.
So I just think little things like that, you really see the quality of someone like Balogun that's played in the Arsenal Academy and played in Europe his entire life as opposed to a lot of the strikers we have. But I was super impressed with how he played, and I think it's a preview of more to come. But I think that's the biggest thing is I watched that, especially that Canada game, and I'm like, wow, this is going to work well.
Yeah.
This is a good combination, this front three. So that's my first takeaway is I was super impressed with his performance.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
You can literally see the ceiling being raised with him.
100%.
And like you said, when those center backs got less time to think about him or have to spend more time thinking about him, that's where that Gio Reyna at the 10 is awesome. So, yeah, I agree. Huge takeaway. I mean, what a debut. Although I don't love this argument, some are pointing out that he's already won more international trophies than Harry Kane.
No lies detected.
Yeah, no lies detected. Honestly, can't argue with it. Yeah, man, and you got Ricardo Pepi right there. If something happens, it's really good. Pepi had a great goal against Mexico too.
Yeah.
So, the striker position looks like it's in good hands, and we won't have to play such a crazy roulette. Less Haji Wright, Jordan Pifak, all that discussion.
Thank God.
Those days might be behind us.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed. Yeah, you know what? I got one pretty similar to what you were talking about. In terms of just the complete difference we saw. partially from Balogun and then partially on that corner kick. Like scoring our 2 goals from a set piece and like a true striker's goal, it felt like cheating. It felt like I was like, this isn't Berhalter ball. We're supposed to disorganize the opponent with the ball and like make all the, like some of the I think about the Serginho Dest goal against Costa Rica, like beautiful, but so hard. It was like 14, 15 pass build up, and then Dest hit this insane shot against Costa Rica where it's like, some of it ended up being effective, but for the most part, it was hard to get to. It was a little bit tedious. And when you got a guy with like Gio just swinging in a really nice set piece, and Chris Richards just goes up and gets it, and it's 1-0. I was like, that felt way easier than anything I've experienced. Set pieces changed games, and then Balogun really just pointing out his spot and, like you said, just making it look so easy. Something we just haven't seen.
Right.
I'm not even here to knock him, but like, you're never gonna see that from Jesus Ferreira.
No, Josh Sargent, that ball's probably going over the goal.
Right. Like just the insane awareness, the way he got around that guy so quickly, and then the shot happened within seconds was super impressive. So, I mean, those two just, I think Gio on the set piece, and hopefully like a freshened up approach to set pieces. Even Greg in his announcement kind of interview said that's going to be a point of emphasis, and it's pretty apparent. It became apparent that Plisic's not the guy to take those. It's got to be Gio.
No,
so
never was.
You would think Gio's going to be working the set pieces. That should work, and then you're going to get these Balogun goals that maybe don't come from nothing, but he makes opportunities look really easy. So those are 2 absolutely huge things for the team.
Yeah,
so
huge.
Yeah. What else you got?
Yeah. So my second takeaway. Lineups. It's not hard.
It really is.
It's not hard. If I don't know what your pre-tournament lineup looked like, but I'd be willing to bet it's if not the exact same, maybe one player off than Callahan's. I mean, he played the lineup that we pretty much all would have said we should be playing. With no frills. He made the subs that he should have made. Pepe, De La Torre. He pretty much just, like in your March Madness tournament, it was all chalk, and that's how it should be, and it worked.
Yeah.
So it kind of leads me to a public service announcement for Greg. It's not hard. We don't need to try out Ferrer. We don't need to try out Kellen Acosta.
Yep.
We don't need to do all this fancy stuff. It's pretty easy. Play your best guys, and it's apparent who they are, and it's probably going to work. And I think even, we made jokes in our group chat about Callahan in, Berhalter out. But if Berhalter coached this tournament and we looked great on set pieces, had a set piece score, obviously won. He played these lineups, made the subs that he made that were impactful. Like, we'd be praising what a great coaching job. Yeah. And finally, Greg's got it going.
So you think he can convince people?
What, Greg?
Or you think he can? Yeah, you think in public opinion he can?
I think he can. I think he can. But I guess another take out of this is that I think there's going to be little to no patience after seeing that performance. I think there's little patience, right?
Yeah.
If Greg gets in, and we have some kind of sleepers of performances against CONCACAF opponents and friendlies, there's got to be questions asked about why can't we live up to what we did Nations League? What's wrong?
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a quick leash if we're not up to snuff. But I mean, I'm willing to give Greg the benefit of the doubt. Hopefully he's maybe learned some things watching this team in Nations League. Hopefully he's learned some things, as he's gone through what he's gone through. But I think there's going to be little patience, and I think he should see a pretty clear blueprint of how this team can win. So.
Yeah, I'm with you, and you're right. It's some of it's like, when you go into a tournament where you don't have an actual coach, like a lot of the success, might be in part to the foundation he laid.
Sure.
But you're exactly right. He watched Gio Reyna at the 10 and no frills on who else should be playing, and it worked like magic. So to go in there and try and be the smartest guy in the room would be ridiculous. And I'm with you. It's got to be zero patience. And one thing I still don't get. I can't I somewhat get it, because the World Cup, in terms of the casuals, ultimately this is a casual podcast. I can understand that. Yep. But the World Cup is the biggest thing for the casual audience. And even Matt Crocker, the sporting director who hired Berhalter, he's referencing that. It's about 26. And I'm like, man, not only is the Copa America a great barometer for if Gregg, because I think we should give it until then, no matter what. That's a year from now. He starts in September. Not only is the Copa America a great barometer, but it's a major tournament. Why not just focus on that? Just the whole framing of 2026, I somewhat get because of its, bigger purpose and bigger draw. But I almost just wonder if U.S. Soccer should be thinking more. Like that seems to be the media's job. Like why aren't they just thinking about 2024 and if he's not doing well enough by 2024, absolutely yank. But there's some, I'm interested to get your opinion here because I totally agree. The BJ came in, even Anthony Hudson to an extent, and is just playing the guys we want to see, the guys that from the fan eye test work really well. Do you think that he at this point? Do you think it's so apparent that Gregg won't even try anything? Like I almost have this faith this second time around that we aren't going to see kind of crazy stuff.
It's a good question. I want to believe it. It's hard to wrap my head around. I hope so. And I think he has good reason to. And I think he probably will to an extent. I think just realizing. I think he feels pretty lucky that he was able to get back in the situation after what happened.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think there's got to be a sense of heightened pressure. All right, you're getting your chance, and now there's no excuses. Now you need to win.
Yeah.
Now it's not the time to try out your MLS guys in Gold Cup, or I guess they are in Gold Cup, but whatever. It's not the time to try out different lineups and try out MLS guys. We know what's going to get us there in Copa America. We know what's going to get us there in 26. We know what the best options are.
Yep.
Let's ride it. Let's get them comfortable, and let's try to win as many games as we can. So.
Yeah. And I want to go on record. I do think Gregg Berhalter's a smart guy. I think at times he's overthought it, but I have faith this time around that it's not going to be craziness. I won't be surprised when names come on the roster and maybe we don't see other guys, but in terms of the guys actually playing and making a difference, I think he's going to get it right. I think he's smart enough to know, you know exactly the deal. So yeah, cool. So. To just get to a big takeaway of mine real quick before we get to a little bit more Gregg stuff, but I really felt like this Nations League was kind of like a crowning moment for the long-term plan. This really felt like the culmination of that rebuild. A lot of times, I think about when we were in high school watching the U.S. and there was a distinctly fraudulent feel to it. A lot of times it felt like players, particularly some of the domestic players who getting to play for the U.S. was going to be the highlight of their career. And in terms of pedigree, right? They're playing international games that are at a higher level than their domestic league. And when things started to go sideways or whatever it may be, it felt like a lot of those players were selfish, maybe entitled to, hey, I play for the U.S. men's national team, and they kind of shelled. There wasn't a cohesion. A lot of times there wasn't understanding on what the team was supposed to do, and they shelled, and they didn't look like they wanted to be there. There was a lack of fight. And it's been a very gradual scale up to where we are now, to the point where there's such a passion, such an understanding, these guys absolutely love being there. Pulisic did an interview after the game, and he goes, I think he says he loves being on the team probably 5 or 6 times. It's almost so out there that it's apparent what his life at Chelsea looks like, what the contrast there. And then, you even got the iconic Weston kissing the badge and Chris Richards celebration. It's just so different. And I think you got to give the whole coaching staff credit, including Gregg, Hudson, and now BJ for this long-term project kind of culminating in 2 dominant wins against CONCACAF opponents. Now, obviously we all want more than that, but you think about what happened in 2018. It was a failure to beat North America, a pathetic failure to get to the World Cup beating North America, and now you can say we're absolutely dominant there. And kind of goes, as we continue to talk about this Gregg Berhalter hiring, after watching those last 2 dominant performances, not only am I somewhat confident about Gregg going forward, but on the whole, just big picture, I don't think any coach is going to come in and ruin this team. They got something going, even when they're basically coachless. They got like a real understanding that is apparent with their on field performance. So I think you got to give some credit again at a time where U.S. soccer is getting a lot of hate. There's got to be some credit for the full rebuild that's taken place, and 100%. one that's reshaped our expectations about the team.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, and that's the fun thing about watching. I think this tournament. I think this is the first time. It was the first time it was really, really apparent to me that like these guys really like each other, and they have the funny. It reminds me of like old Cavs teams that like you'd have the funny moments with like Deli and JR, and you could tell like these guys actually like each other in the locker room, and that's super important. And like to see that, to see the fun and to see like the obvious friendships they have with each other is great to see, and I think obviously is a crucial part of success as a team. Yeah, I also we have a little bit of like attitude.
We do.
We have a little bit of I think a lot of it comes from guys like Weston McKennie and things like that, but like. We have a little grit and like a toughness that like I think an American fan base will easily can get behind and latch onto and identify with. So I just really great vibes all around, and I think it's gonna be great moving forward to see just see how that develops and I don't know.
Yeah, man. Like we're not gonna win the World Cup.
No,
we're not. But this is a good team, and this is like I don't even think that you would call it a golden generation. But this is a really good team that's going to go out and compete for a Copa America and go do some serious damage in the World Cup. Like I think those are all possibilities. So it's even if I feel like some of the club things like this, I would say prospects that have struck out a little bit. Dest, Aronson, maybe those guys aren't going to be the straight to the top guys that we thought. But I mean, wow, this team is like. There's so much cohesion, so much purpose in what they're doing. That
I have a question for you.
Super exciting. Yeah.
This team, like if we're playing that World Cup game against the Netherlands with the form we're in with this exact team, do you think that game plays out any differently?
Not really. Honestly I don't think that we're getting there and we're even more free flowing. And I will say I think Mexico and Canada are going through their own struggles, and we just expose them. And part of that is because of how bad we made them look. And I don't know. I think we were just a little naive against the Netherlands, and I'm not sure that I'm not sure that form fixes that. Tyler Adams just has to track back. Dest just has to get in front of that guy, and Jedi can't fall asleep. 3 individual mistakes.
Agree.
But I mean,
maybe we beat Wales.
We're beating Wales. I'm with you there. And I think But that being said, having Balogun at the table, like you said, not only a goal threat, but occupies center backs and takes the whole game to another level. Yeah. And Gio Reyna at the 10, which, I'm a truther on that one. I think he was hurt. I somewhat get Gregg's decisions, but those are things that drastically raise the ceiling of this team.
Agreed.
And I got another takeaway that kind of feeds right into that. Mm-hmm. So I think you look at the open positions on this team, and I think Tim Weah once again showed it doesn't matter how it doesn't matter if it fits in any of our brains that he can play so poorly for club and then come back and really boss for the U.S. men's national team. But he's a lock on that right wing until further notice, until he plays 5 bad games in a row. He's a lock there. And I think Gio proved again he's got to be there for set pieces, but also in the middle he's just a beast. I'm sure you saw him slaloming those guys in the first half and. So with those guys, with Gio and Tim, and by the way, Gregg, I know this is mind-blowing stuff that doesn't really fit, but prior to the World Cup, Gregg is obsessed with Gio. He loves playing Gio Reyna no matter what, and I'm confident that's gonna happen again as he's healthy, and it's apparent how effective he is. Now, what that means, I actually put out a funny lineup on our Instagram where we had 12 players in the field because everyone's thinking the same thing. We're going to have to break up the MMA, which is something that some people have put it drastically raised our floor at the World Cup, made us look like a really competitive team, got us to a 0-0 versus England kind of thing. It turned us into a scrappy, athletic, competitive team. So Max, I'll give you that question first.
I had this in my notes.
You're taking one letter out of the MMA. Who's it going to be?
He's at an unfair advantage or disadvantage here, but I'm taking from what I just saw. I think I have to take the A out. And it's tough it's hard to say that. I mean, he was our captain in the World Cup. Yeah. But just looking at those 3 guys, and obviously recency bias, having watched Musa and McKennie both have a great showing, but I think you might have to take him out.
Yeah.
And just seeing the attacking style we get with Musa and McKennie in the middle.
Yeah.
I love Tyler Adams. I love his tenacity, but he doesn't quite have the creativity or the kind of like offensive ability that those two guys have. And I think you see that. Ball progression, exactly. And so I think you might have to take A out. But I but can you imagine like Tyler Adams as like a 60th minute sub if you need to protect a 1-0 lead?
Yeah.
That's a perfect
Oh my
situation,
gosh,
right?
that is great.
So I think his role, he's still got a huge role to play. But from what I saw, and obviously it's unfortunate he didn't have an opportunity, but I think you might have to take the A out. What do you think?
So I think I'm actually with you, but how do you feel about what that means from a leadership perspective? Like because that is such a big role for him. Do you think that you're missing too much, or do you feel like the teams get it from elsewhere? How do you feel about that?
I think, I don't think this team has have big egos like that. I think it works. I mean, even looking up in the build up to the World Cup, I mean, Pulisic was the captain. And they kind of came in. It was a little bit of a surprise, I guess, to some people that it was Tyler Adams was nominated. I don't think that's something that our players get up in arms about. I think he could easily, and I think Pulisic could easily take the captain's band, and I don't think anyone would be disappointed. Yeah. That's my opinion. I think it's an interesting thing to think about, but I don't see that being an issue with Tyler Adams, at least.
Yeah.
He strikes me as a mature. I mean, to be named captain, in the first place, he strikes me as a mature, level-headed dude. So I don't think that'll be a problem.
Yeah. I think I tend to agree with you. It is kind of an interesting one, just thinking about how much we really put stock in these games. This Mexico and Canada, who we made look silly, but we'll see what they look like going forward. Because Canada really had a really out of nowhere strong run throughout World Cup qualifying, and Mexico have been on the down for a while. But I agree with you. I think you just got to ride with what you got. I'm trying not to be prisoner of the moment with it. It's unlucky for Tyler Adams, but I mean, man, you go 5-0 aggregate in these two games against your two big regional rivals who, previous to now we didn't think were awful teams. So I think you got to try that out. It'll be interesting, like Germany's coming to the U.S. in October, games like that you could see maybe switching to more of a destroyer mindset. To really to compete against the big boys, but at the very least, it's a great headache to have. So
and like we said, I mean, we talk about Gregg's lineup, questionable lineup decisions, but those three, those are ones that no one can criticize, right? Like if Gregg decides to go with Adams for a game and sit Musa or do whatever, I think we'll sort of defer to him on that. But there's all three good choices, and I think depending on the team, there might be a tactical reason to do it any possible way.
Now, what if he just trots out the MMA without Gio? Do you think hell breaks loose?
Yeah, that one. That's actually one. Yeah.
No,
Gio's got to be a mainstay until further notice.
Yeah,
but
I'm right there with you. You got any other ones?
Any takes?
Yeah,
or?
I got a couple more if not.
You give one. Those were my main headlines.
All right, sweet. So, I touched on this in the short recap I did of the Mexico game, but and this is a bit of an exaggeration, but form is temporary, class is permanent. Again, so many of these players that played super well did not have great club seasons, didn't fit into our brain in terms of the performance they put out. And like I've said, the coaching staff deserves credit for fostering an environment that when they showed up, it got the best out of these players and then some. I mean, think about the fact Serginho Dest doesn't even play for a soccer team, and he shows up and just balls out against Mexico. So I think with this core, with other players, I mean, think about Luca de la Torre, right? Like, you don't get to, like, if he's only getting 45 minutes, it's hard to even crush him for the 45 minutes. And players like that who are not starters, who are the backups, I think that their club form has to be really considered and thought about. But Chris Richards, another guy who hardly played this year in the Premier League, came out. He, in my opinion, was the best player in the whole tournament in the Nations League. Was phenomenal, absolute lights out in defense, and then gets a goal. Like guys like that, they've proven they're the core. And ups and downs may follow, but that's who Gregg has to ride with. So screw our grades and awards end of season that we did. Like, this is the team. These are the guys. Dest is a guy. Richards is a guy. Musa off a bad season's a guy. I know we just said they might have to rotate the MMA, but Weston's one of those dudes. And Tim Weah is too. Tim Weah, who, 0 goals in 29 appearances in France.
Well, he's playing left back, right? Or
He was definitely on wing back a lot, but I'm sure he got like 10 of those games at forward and nothing. But we're still hopeful that a move will kind of change those things. So just kind of moving a little bit into our last part here, which is the Gregg Berhalter hiring. I talked a little bit about it. Do you want to just give your kind of state of the union on it, your general feeling on rehiring Gregg?
Yeah. So I guess 2 things. I think one, I was a little disappointed, and I think everyone was. I just think in terms of the potential of the names we could have had, and a lot of them may or may not have been realistic, right? But I thought there was an opportunity to get a world-class manager, or even someone like Jesse Marsch, who we probably maybe would have preferred a little bit over Gregg. Had he been interested, I can't speak for you. I probably would have preferred him.
Tell a story real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Like fans may not know, but so people were. I mean, I'll be honest. I think our fan base is a little bit on the unintelligent side. They're very reactive.
Yeah.
But they were hammering the Athletics' Paul Tenorio because he dropped the story. Which, can you even imagine somebody getting mad at Woj for the finals about to start? Why'd you say
no,
Kyrie wants to leave? So people were getting mad at him. But what actually kicked off everything was Jesse Marsch's agent tweeting, and no one even knew who this guy is. But somebody along the line was like, "Yo, this is Jesse's agent." But he was like, "Jesse Marsch will not get the job," and everyone was like, what's going on here? So that was the smoke that led to Gregg's being leaked minutes before kickoff. But,
it's funny. But that being said, now that it was the call that was made, I am very much the camp of all right, let's do it. It's not I'm not upset about it. I was excited about the potential opportunities, but I don't think it's a bad move. And the main reason I say that is I don't want to say I was taken aback, but it struck me the level of support he still had from the team, from his players. Literally, we talked about it in the group chat. Pretty soon after the World Cup, Christian Pulisic was already on the offensive doing press tours talking about that he basically wanted Gregg back.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot, and I think you got that same vibe from other players. And I think when you have the support of your team, even after some controversy, I think that says a lot. And I think with that in mind, I'm happy with it. If the team's happy with it, I'm happy with it. And I think it's one of those moves. It's you can look back and be a moment where we stuck with our guy and it ended up working out. So that being considered, I'm not in the camp of a lot of these USMNT fans that were pretty vocal about their disdain for it. But I'm okay with it. What do you think?
Yeah, I would have preferred Patrick Vieira. I would have preferred a clean slate, but that is relative to my understanding of what a U.S. men's national team locker room is. And despite this little microphone here and the podcast platform we have, I actually don't know shit about what that looks like.
Yeah.
We love this team, but their reality, the reality they experienced on a man-made island in Qatar for 30 days or whatever it was, it's a whole different ballgame from where we are sitting, trying to judge, right? And that was the biggest knock on Gregg is when you go talk about another player like that, you've lost the respect of the locker room. And it's just evident people don't feel that way. Now, I still am a little bit, nervous about the media storm and, the potential just cloud hanging over this team of having this guy back. And, when is Gio Reyna going to get in front of a press conference? He can't the next till 2026, right? And especially if things start to go south, I would hate to look at this situation and feel like just Gregg's presence is really bringing the team down outside of any actual soccer decision Gregg makes. But I'm kind of here for him. I'm here for it. Let's ride. If there's even rumors that there was some element of equal pay with the U.S. women's coach, which it's kind of unclear how much that factored in, but that could have been a factor in not paying. I guess Patrick Vieira was asking for $5 million, but it's all pretty up in the air what the actual options were. But like I said, I don't think any coach is going to come in and ruin this team, and I think Gregg's player selection is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like at this point, that is the biggest thing he's got to get right, and it's right there for him. I just don't. Yeah. I don't see some massive issue here. I will say, I think I know you mentioned, U.S. fans not being happy with this. I truly think the consensus on how anti people are about this, and I would say to an extent I am anti. I wanted another guy. I wanted Vieira,
Yeah.
but the consensus is just crazy how bad people hate this guy.
Yeah.
Like, pardon my take today. PFT commenter was like, Gregg Berhalter's back. That sucks. You got like, I met my girlfriend's sister's boyfriend this weekend, and he's like, yeah, I'm pissed at U.S. Soccer. They brought Gregg back, and just like,
Yeah.
no one is like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, this is good. It's like, it's a pretty insane consensus for bringing a coach back at a time when the team is not horrible or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to judge that, but yeah, he cannot miss the player selection. I agree with you. I do think there is a way back for him. He'll always have his haters, but if he gets that player selection right, I think things will just fall into place.
Agreed.
So my last take just has to do with the process, which is getting lots of heat. Everyone's got an eye out on what U.S. Soccer is doing because they have flopped many times in the past. They have, with the original Gregg Berhalter hiring was pretty ridiculous. And then, another portion of the media was pretty critical of their kind of U.S. women's national team treatment. So this process obviously got some heat, namely the fact that they hired an outside firm to help them sort out who was going to be the coach, and then turned around and hired the same coach. And then just the amount of time lost, obviously you brought him back after 6 months. So I'll be interested to see where first, before I get into my big gripe with the process, how do you feel about that in general?
Well, I think it would be great to be one of those search firms that gets paid all this money to literally just to say the same guy. But I think one of the big things about these search firms, I don't know if I heard this it was Big Cat that might have said this first, but
yeah.
The funny thing about them is I think a lot of these guys that might be making decisions will be like, well, it's not my fault. We hired a search firm to tell us who to hire. So it's sort of like validating. It's sort of, I guess, to some extent removes some culpability if they make the wrong call. But I'm fine with it. I think overall, I'm fine with the process because I think we maybe needed a minute to like step back and like look at the choices. I don't think anyone's losing anything for Gregg not being on the training ground for this period of time.
That's exactly how I feel. Look at what they just did.
Yeah, like look what we just did exactly. I think it even can give him some perspective and maybe help us in the long run. So honestly, all things considered, I'm fine with how the process played out. I think it was weird, but I'm glad we didn't just go red head with Gregg and not look at other options and not explore different avenues and not think about what it would be like without Gregg. I think we got some benefit from doing that.
Yeah.
But I think now that I'm fine, and I guess at this point of the decision to bring him back, and I think I know Gregg with the process. I actually think it was handled well overall.
Yeah. Those big things that people are pointing to, like the outside firm and the time, I'm with you. I don't really think they make a huge difference.
Everyone does that.
The one thing I will say that sketches me out big time is impossible to look away from. Matt Crocker, the sporting director, like he indicated, that the interviews it was like a 10-hour day full of like psychological testing, like all these crazy different things, right? And somewhere along the lines, he slips in like we tried to hire people based on these values and these things we were looking for. I mean, Gregg basically set the values for us, and then he like continues, and I was like, wait a minute, rewind. You're telling me you interviewed candidates, and one of the candidates had the answer key because he made the framework that we're looking for? I was like, that is pretty crazy. It's not easy to look away from how absolutely just out of whack that is. That potentially they were hiring a candidate based on the tenets that Gregg Berhalter put in place during his time with the national team. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
just
plain advantage.
Plain and simple. That's ridiculous. But that's all I got to say about this process. You think Gregg wants? I mean, he's not coaching the Gold Cup, which is also interesting.
So where are we? I was going to ask you that. We're rocking with Callahan for the Gold Cup.
Yeah. So some people are mad because they're like, U.S. Soccer doesn't want Gregg to fail, which I actually think they're right. For me, I'm like, Gregg Berhalter doesn't get another month to hang out with Jesus Ferreira, become infatuated with him, and find him a way to start him against, Argentina in the Copa America. I'm like, I'm cool with this. That's fine by me. So that's what we got. great win for the U.S. in the Nations League. So good to be just humming along, and I'm bummed we won't get to see these guys in particular play till the September window. I'm like, I was so burnt out by the club season, but now I'm like, I wouldn't mind a little, I mean, I don't know where Pulisic and Balogun are going to be next year. I hope Balogun ends on one of our most streaming services, but I would not mind watching those dudes play. It'll be
apparently Gio's probably on the move too. So I've heard.
Yeah, I hope not. He's the only Dortmund player with balls. So, we'll see. But either way, thank you guys for listening. Maybe we'll see some of you Saturday if we somehow pull the rabbit out of the hat and find a way to make tailgate. But I think for the Gold Cup, honestly, the roster took the total wind out of my sails. I was ready there were some rumors that we were going to like throw a real squad together. And I was ready to come back to Lodge's basement and do this podcast a few times. But we'll probably do like a Gold Cup recap and then mix in all the big transfer rumors because there's going to be a lot. Yeah. You will not be getting a play-by-play of the Gold Cup and Aaron Long's performance from us. So, so we will probably see you guys in another month. Appreciate you listening.